Hi, Facebook. Happy Thursday. Had a few things I wanted to catch you up on, but first I want to start off on a really important topic that I've heard from a lot of you on, and that has to do with my hair. I've had a lot of really amusing conversations with those of you who watch this video about how the state of my hair indicates how much sleep I've gotten, whether I've had a chance to put myself together for the day, and sometimes it's pointing outside. So I just want to lay down a marker that this morning I had my hair cut, so this is going to be the high water mark for my coiffure. But I know some of you were worried about me. You look tired. You know, your hair looks funny. So yes, so this morning I really put on a good show for Facebook. I also, so I had a lot of meetings in the district this week, putting different miles on my car rather than going back and forth from Hartford. But I have a little, one of my sort of brags for the week is that, you know, how many districts do you go to Board of Selectmen meeting and get zucchini? Just from those of you from other districts, I'm just guessing you don't get this. So I have it reliably that there may be more of this at another meeting I go to tonight. So maybe this counts as an ethical disclosure as well. This was a gift at a local Board of Selectmen meeting. So I want to just sort of, basically most of the meetings I went to this week, they span a range of topics, but there were three in particular that these focused on: the environment, substance abuse, and rural connectivity. So on the environment, the Democratic Coalition of Northwest Connecticut had a meeting which focused on Cricket Valley. And as I've mentioned before, I worked this term with Senator Julie Kushner to pass a piece of legislation that will provide the towns that are potentially downwind of the Cricket Valley Energy Center that is currently under construction in Dover Plains with technical assistance from DEEP, the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. And so we had Paul Farrell from DEEP come out to Cornwall for this meeting, and he gave a presentation about sort of the kinds of things that DEEP's looking at and the kind of assistance they're going to be providing. And also we had confirmation there that they also already are building constructive relationships with local people, particularly a lot of them organized by the Western Connecticut Clean Air Action Alliance. I'm going to get that acronym wrong, sorry, but which has been behind helping towns fund those air quality monitoring stations in towns potentially affected by that. So that was a really important meeting. I also had a few meetings that grew out of a conservation conversation that I went to actually last week. This was at the Macrocostas Preserve in New Preston, which is quite beautiful if you haven't been there. And then I had meetings after that with several of our local land trust and conservation activists about land conservation and what it means to us in the Northwest Corner. And as I often say, it touches on so many topics around here. Our economy is very dependent on having open space, but it also ties into much bigger, issues such as, climate change. There's been a lot of several headline articles in the past week or so talking about how even small urban forests can really help with global warming. And so, land preservation is not just about preserving beauty in a particular neck of the woods. It's also about our climate. It's also about, providing everybody in the state of Connecticut access to green space, because we know what that means for children's health and for all of us, actually. So I think it's a really important issue that we have to, make sure that we make the point that it really does affect everybody and not just the few who happen to live near a preserve. So that's a topic I look forward to working on more as we go forward. I also had a series of meetings relating to substance abuse, so we had one in Kent earlier this week that was organized by Dita Bhargava, who a former gubernatorial and treasurer candidate, who tragically lost her son to substance abuse during her own campaign. And she has gone on to organize a lot of really constructive events to get us to focus on the practical solutions to this problem and how to really help people. And we had one of those on Monday that several of us were there. I was there. Representative Sean Scanlon from Guilford was there. as was Congresswoman Johanna Hayes. And Maria Couton Skinner from McCall Foundation, lots of people involved in substance abuse. As are a lot of these meetings, it's about bringing different parts of the community together. It's about nonprofits, it's about private fundraising, it's about government legislation and appropriations. So, and it's people who work with the formerly incarcerated, it's people who work with children who are focused on preventative action. So this is really a community event that requires us to be, we lost over 1,000 people in Connecticut last year, and increasingly a lot of those deaths have to do with fentanyl, and which is, as much as we are trying to do in the legislature, we are not curbing this crisis yet. And so one of the important things that we do by having these meetings is, cutting down on the stigma, being able to tell painful stories in person. At another one, a meeting of the Northwest Connecticut Prevention Coalition, Prevention Network. I'm not good on acronyms today. NCPN. We were talking about, sometimes little things make a big difference, like where you hold a meeting. Is somebody going to come if it's in a particular place that seems foreign to them or not comfortable? Or if they go, is this going to stigmatize them? Are they sensitive about something they're going through in their family, and they think if they show up at this meeting, it puts an arrow on their back? And so sometimes, where you hold meetings, how you title them, who comes, how we talk about these issues these seem like little things, but they can have a really big effect. So that's what a lot of those conversations are, but they also have to do with, legislation and money, both private money and public money. So one of the important bill signings that happened this week, in fact, on the same day as the Kent event, was the Mental Health Parity Act, which you've heard me talk about before, but it basically it's another step in assuring that substance abuse treatment and mental health treatment get treated with parity on a parity with physical health. So making sure insurance companies are treating both and aren't putting up hurdles for people who need those services. And that's one other step in reducing the stigma and not having people feel like this is their fault. We all, there's a lot of levers we need to press to work on this crisis, but that's certainly one of them. So that was a good moment. Then tonight, and actually I've had several phone calls this week, and then there's a meeting tonight in Cornwall relating to rural connectivity, and you heard me talk about municipal gain before. I'll skip the technical terms tonight, but I'll tell a story, which is that yet again, I got another phone call in the last week or so from another family who moved to this area because they wanted to raise their daughter here, and they're freelancers and they need connectivity, and they bought a house that they assumed would be connected here in our region, and it wasn't, or at least it was inadequately connected to run their businesses. And so they're in a panic because they want to live here, but they're trying to figure out how they can make that work. And this is exactly the kind of family that we want to bring to our area. And so we really need to be creative and look for many different approaches to how to figure out, the internet is, they are the roads of today. This is really a public utility situation. And particularly for our rural economy that we hope has a, smaller footprint in terms of land use and in terms of, preserving the character of our community. These are, we need to hook people up. And, so that's one of the bills that I worked on this year that made it past some hurdles, but not over the most critical ones. So I'm still having a lot of conversations about that, and I look forward to tonight's conversation. I think there are a lot of really interesting people who are interested in working on this, and everywhere I go, I talk to more people who are want to put their energy into this as well, because they see how important it is for education, for healthcare, for public services, for public safety, you name it, we need this. So tonight should be a good conversation in Cornwall. I also got to give out 2 great citations this week to two men in our community who between them have dedicated almost 100 years to their towns. One was Ed Kirby, who served 47 years on the inland wetlands and Watercourse Commission in Sharon since its inception. So that was a real treat to be able to honor his contribution, and also honor Chief Michael McAllis, who served, I think, 51 years in the Drakeville Fire Department, and that served past. He will continue to serve, but no longer as its chief. And that was incredibly an honor to be there to give him a tribute as well, particularly to look around at the legacy he leaves in terms of service in the community in general, in Torrington, in Litchfield County, and just in his family. I mean, taking a look at all the people in his family who continue to serve and have served in the past, it's a really impressive thing for all of us. So thank you to both Ed Kirby and Chief McAllis for all you've done for us. Just to touch on a couple of upcoming events. Tomorrow night, July 12th, there will be Lights for Liberty vigils throughout the state, the country, and in fact the world. I think by last count I heard that over 600 towns and cities were participating in this. And it's a vigil for relating to the treatment of immigrants, and a lot of the news recently about the appalling condition in which particularly children are being held, and the family separation policies that result in the detention of children in these facilities that were intended for a completely different purpose. And so, as I've said before, this was an issue that was galvanizing during the campaign for people really across a broad spectrum of interests. So if you want to come out and lend your voice to humanity, there are 2 Lights for Liberty vigils in our area that I know of. Maybe there are more, but one is in Salisbury at 6 p.m. and the other is in Kent at 8:30, and that one in Kent is at St. Andrew's Churchyard. So I hope you can join me at one or both of those. And then finally, Canaan Railroad Days is starting up pretty soon. It starts on Wednesday, July 17th and runs through July 28th. So that's incredibly fun. Lots of great events to attend on summer evenings and summer days. So hope to see you there as well, and have a great weekend. Bye. Bye, baby. If I can hit the button.